Well, hi everyone, or maybe like this.
Hi everyone. My name is Dasha and I work as a UX designer at Bontouch.
Sorry, the sound doesn't seem to work. Let's do that again.
Hi everyone. My name is Dasha and I work as a UX designer at Bontouch.
Yes. I'm not going to let the text-to-speech voice do the rest of the talk. I think I'll better do that myself. I know you're tired, maybe hungry, but I'm the last thing before lunch, so please bear with me for 10 minutes. I'm going to talk just really short about Bontouch because we're not only known for our parties, as you heard before, we actually do some work as well. And if you live in Sweden, you've probably used some of our apps. And what we do is to partner with different brands from big industries, and we help them improve their customer experiences. And for a long time, we have been doing that by making apps, because that's where the users are. But today, I'm not going to talk about apps. I'm going to talk about designing for voice. So as you know, voice assistants are growing. I'm sure a lot of you, some of you, have a smart speaker at home. There is a Google Assistant, there is Alexa by Amazon, and there is a Siri. So voice is definitely becoming a new interaction platform. So now any brand can develop a skill for Alexa or an action for Google Assistant and help their users solve some problems using voice. So you can talk, for example, to a Nike assistant to get some recommendations for running shoes, or you can ask BBC to update you on the latest news. So we jumped on track as well, and this year we released some actions for Google Assistant for some of our partners. And since I'm really curious about conversation design, I decided to try out what it means to be a VUI designer. And VUI stands for Voice User Interface. Do we have someone here who has ever designed a voice experience? There are a couple of hands. I think we're going to be more next year. So if you've heard a little bit about conversation design, and if you tried it out, you probably know that it's really fun, but it can also be quite challenging for a UX designer that has always been relying on a screen. So when you work with conversation design, you go through a pretty similar process as a UX designer, but your mindset has to be different, because conversation is something we're born with, it's something natural, and it's something that has its own rules. You can't structure a conversation in the same way as you structure an app or a website. So I'm going to share some of my learnings from working on conversation design and some of the Google Assistant actions that we did this summer. What I found is really important is to identify the right use case for voice. And it can be really easy to jump in one of the tasks that your app or some other medium can already solve. But it's important to think, is that really suitable for voice? So for example, in our app for Swedish Railways, users mostly book train tickets, that's what they do. But would that be a relevant case for voice? Because there's a lot of information we need to take in from the users. There's a lot of information that we need also to present to the users. Departure times, multiple options, seat selections, add-ons. So maybe that's better done on the screen. But if you are a commuter, and it's maybe early in the morning, and you're a bit in a rush, and you're multitasking, your hands are busy, you are making breakfast, prepping kids for school, then maybe you just want to ask your assistant, is my train on time today? So that you can plan when do you leave home. So when we made a Google Assistant action for the Swedish Railways, we made it for a commuter. They can check if there are any delays, and they can also find out when the next train leaves. So it's important to picture a user in a situation. What kind of needs can they have? What kind of problems they might have? What are they doing? And it's not necessarily that a voice assistant has to be very task-based. It can be something about entertainment and inspiration, but context is important. Another challenge is to make your assistant personal and relatable. And this is not as easy as it seems, because if you are using text-to-speech voice, that might sound quite robotic, and you make your assistant quirky and emotional, you write some fun copy, then it might sound a bit weird, like a robot making jokes. So you can work with personality in a different way, and a nice way to start is to create a persona, not only for a user, but actually for your assistant. If that would be a real person behind it, who would be that person? What would they say? Who would they be to the user? So when we were working on an assistant for Swedish Postal Service, we pictured kind of a young, cheerful, enthusiastic person working in the post office. And this person would probably not express themselves like this.
Welcome. I can help you buy freight for domestic and international shipments.
That doesn't really sound like her. But they may say something like this.
Hi, I can help you send packages all over the world.
So like how you put the words is really important, and it's very easy to just write dialogues and write a lot of different situations and edge cases, but it really helps to act it out immediately, make a little theater play, and then you will understand what makes sense and what just sounds really strange. There is also another way to go, and that is, instead of using the default text-to-speech voice, is to use the voice recordings to record human voice. And we did that in the Google Assistant action that we created for H&M Home. Because this one is really about inspiration and entertainment. This is also mainly focused on the devices with the screen, since there is some visual content. And we wanted to feel the users like they're talking to a real stylist that is friendly, relatable, fun to talk to, but also credible and a good listener. So we recorded voice, and this is how it sounds.
Hi, I'm your H&M home stylist. I can give you styling tips for different rooms in your home. Which room do you want to talk about?
So this immediately feels a little more personal, and of course that would not be suitable for a train application, for example, where you have to read a lot of timetables and places and things like that. But for more of an entertaining assistant, that works really nice. This I really find challenging, how to guide your user but not guide them too much. Because you don't want to end up creating a chatbot where the users can only answer yes and no. That would be boring, because technology does allow us much more than that. We can keep the context of the users. We can let them ask questions in many different ways at different points of the conversation. So we can give them some freedom. But on the other hand, you don't want your user to ask your assistant absolutely anything, or they can ask, but you want to guide them on what you actually can handle, otherwise your assistant will break. So as in any other screen-based medium, onboarding works really nice here as well. Tell the users what kind of options they have, and you can do that, or you have to do that in the beginning when you present your assistant for the first-time user, but you can also do that contextually, like here, for example, in the H&M Stylist. We show a styling suggestion for a room and describe it, and then we say what the user can do next. So that they learn that, and we don't repeat that a second time, because that would sound quite unnatural. But if the user asks, sorry, what were my options, or what can I do, we will repeat that for them. Error handling is really important when you work with voice assistants, and this is sort of what comes with giving the user freedom. If you want it to feel natural, you have to handle a lot of cases where users will be saying something that you cannot handle. So if you work with input errors in a smart way and guide the users back to the right path so they can ask the right questions to your assistant, this is what will make your assistant smarter than another one. And users are quite sensitive when it comes to mistakes in voice assistants, because when you're using a screen and you tap a wrong button, of course you might blame the UX, but it's still the action you took. When you talk to the assistant, you are just yourself. You talk. That's the way you've always been expressing yourself. So they start to blame the assistant immediately. So these are some of the things I learned while working on some actions for Google Assistant. And I found conversation design really interesting, and I'm definitely not an expert yet, but I'm learning. And if you want to talk with me more about it, meet other Montage designers, try out some of our Google Assistant actions. Please come to our space. I think it looks like that. Might look different in the light, in the darkness. Also, we do have a photo booth there, and we have a post-it wall. And come to our party tonight. You heard about that already, so please sign up. It's going to be a lot of fun. Thank you.
Thank you.